Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today for a memorial lecture organized by the government of Goa on the topic Building New India as an Exponential Inspirator by Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, FRS, on the occasion of 50th death anniversary of the first Chief Minister and the architect of Goa's destiny, late Bhau Sahib Dayananda Balakrishna Bandodkar. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just brush up your memory and draw your attention. 50 years back, around the same time, in the premises of Panjim Gymkhana, Bhau Sahib had his last engagement. He left this premises around 8 p.m. with little uneasiness, never to return again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the same premises for his 50th death anniversary. Friends, everybody can climb a mountain, but great are those who first build their own mountain and then climb it. We are privileged to have amongst us one such personality, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, to deliver the memorial lecture. I would request Shri Prasad Loliekar, Secretary Education, Government of Goa, to escort our Honorable Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant and Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar to the dais. It is said that all birds find shelter during the rain, but eagle avoids the rain by flying above the clouds. Friends, problems are common, but it is the attitude which makes the difference. I would now request Shri Prasad Loliekar to welcome the gathering and introduce Dr. Mashelkar, a man with a different attitude.
आयच्या कार्यावळीचे मुखेल सोयरे आणि मुखेल वक्ते डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर, गोंय राज्याचे मानाधीक मुख्यमंत्री डॉक्टर प्रमोद सावंत, हांगा जमिल्ले सगळे जाणकार आणि वांगड्यानो, ज्या प्रकारात भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरान आपले निमणे फंक्शन अटेंड केले त्याच प्रकारात आज 50 वर्सां नंतर त्यांची 50 वर्साची पुण्यतिथी मनयतना पयले फंक्शन जाता. 50 वर्सां नंतरही भाऊसाहेबाच्यो यादी ही वास्तू आणि हो प्रकार विसरूंक पावलो ना हें आयच्या उपस्थिती वयल्यान जाणवता. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकराचे योग्य वर्णन गदी माडगुळकर हाणें आपल्या कवितेंतल्यान केला. सिंधू सागराने आपले काळीज दिले आहे या माणसाला, खवळेल उसळेल पण सीमा सुटणार नाहीत. दयानंद नुसते नाव नाही, तो स्वभाव आहे याचा. हा सहज विसावेल त्या आसनालाच शासन समजतो अवघा गोमंतक. हा चालेल तो मार्ग नेतृत्वाचाच असतो. भाऊसाहेबाचे इतले साधे सोपे वर्णन आणि खंयच्या शब्दांनी करचे. तांचे त्या वेळचे सेक्रेटरी शरद उपासनी हांणी तांच्या औदार्याचो एक सादोसो खीण बरोवन दवरले आसा. ते म्हणटात, कोयनेचो जेन्ना भुकंप जालो तेन्ना भाऊसाहेब थंयच्या लोकांच्यो वेदना पुसपाक गेले. वतना पयशांची बॅग घेवन वांटपा खातीर गेले. थंय अशें जाणवलें शरद उपासनीक की मनीस परतो परतो रांगेक लावन परते परते पयशे घेता. तांणी भाऊसाहेबाक सांगलें की पळय, ते तुका फटयतात. भाऊसाहेबान तांकां म्हणलें, अशें कित्याक तुका दिसता? तूं अशें कित्याक समजना की तांची गरज आपणान दिल्ल्या पयशां परसय चड आसा, म्हणून ते परते रांगेक रावतात आनी परते घेतात. उपासनीन तांकां परते म्हणलें, म्हळ्यार तूं दीत रावतलो? तर भाऊसाहेबान तांकां म्हणलें, ते मागायला थकत नाही तर मी द्यायला का थकू. येद्या व्हडल्या काळजाचो हो मनीस. म्हणूनच SM जोशी म्हणटा, भाऊसाहेबाक जाय आशिल्लें जाल्यार कॅबिनेट डिसिजन घेवन एसेंब्लीक ठराव पास करून तेज्यान गोंय महाराष्ट्राक विलीन करूं येतालें, पूण लोकशाहीचेर श्रद्धा आशिल्लो हो मनीस जाणें ओपिनियन पोल मान्य केलो. लोकांचो ओपिनियन पोल मान्य केलोच. त्या भायर सेंट्रल गव्हर्मेंटान जेन्ना ताका सांगलें की ओपिनियन पोल जर निपक्षपाती जातलो जाल्यार तुवें CM पदा वयल्यान राजिनामो दिवन सकयल देंवपाक जाय, तेन्ना उदार अंतकरणान हो नेतो सकयल देंवलो. ह्या येद्या व्हडल्या काळजाचो हो मनीस, ज्याची 50वी पुण्यतीथ आज आमी मनयतात, आनी ती मनोवपाच्या निमतान जें व्याख्यान दवरलां तें त्याच येद्या व्हडल्या मनशाचें. आज आमच्या मदीं आसात डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर. 81 वर्साचो हो तरूण. चैतन्याक वय नासता हें जर कळचें जाल्यार तें फक्त रघुनाथ माशेलकर हांकां पळोवनच. न्यूटनान ज्या पुस्तकांत, ज्या पेनान आपली सही मारली, त्याच पुस्तकांत त्याच पेन हातांत घेवन सही मारपी हो भारतांतलो हो गोमंत पुत्र. म्हणून तांकां फेलो ऑफ रॉयल सोसायटी हें मानांकन प्राप्त जालां. रघुनाथ माशेलकर हळदी घाटाची लढाई भारताक जिखून दिवपी आनी हळदीचो पेटंट भारताच्या नांवार करपी हो सुपुत्र, जाणें फक्त हळदीच्या नांवाचो पेटंट भारताच्या नांवार केलो ना, तर अनेक शास्त्रज्ञ तयार केले जे आपल्या ह्या जागतीक लढायेंत भारता खातीर पेटंट मागपा खातीर झगडटले आनी झुजा मळार जिखतले. माशेलकरान अनेक अधिकार पदां भुशयलीं. तातलीं कांय म्हळ्यार डायरेक्टर ऑफ नॅशनल केमिकल लॅबोरेटरी 1979 ते 95. मागीर ते जाले डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ CSIR, चेअरमन ऑफ नॅशनल इनोव्हेशन फाउंडेशन, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ ग्लोबल रिसर्च अलायन्स, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडियन नॅशनल सायन्स अकॅडमी. त्या भायर अनेक देशाच्या अनेक युनिव्हर्सिटीक व्हिजिटिंग प्रोफेसर म्हणूनय ते गेल्यात. हार्वर्ड युनिव्हर्सिटी 2007 ते 2012, डेलावेर युनिव्हर्सिटी 1976 ते 1988, टेक्नॉलॉजी युनिव्हर्सिटी ऑफ डेन्मार्क 1982, सर लुईस मॅथसन डिस्टिंग्विश प्रोफेसर ॲट मोनाश युनिव्हर्सिटी 15 वर्सां 2007 ते 2022. त्याच प्रमाणे अनेक भारतीय युनिव्हर्सिटीचे चॅन्सलर म्हणूनय तांणी काम केलां. आसाम युनिव्हर्सिटी सिल्चर, अकॅडमी ऑफ सायंटिफीक अँड इनोव्हेशन रिसर्चाचे चॅन्सलर, इन्स्टिट्यूट ऑफ केमिकल टेक्नॉलॉजीचे चॅन्सलर आनी जिओ इन्स्टिट्यूट जिओ युनिव्हर्सिटी जी नव्यान स्थापन जाला त्याचे चॅन्सलर पद ते भुशयतात. स्वातंत्र्या नंतर अनेक भारताच्या पंतप्रधानाच्या सायंटिफीक ॲडवायझरी कावन्सिलाचे सदस्य म्हणून तांणी काम केलां. माशेलकर सदांच फर्स्ट म्हण अनेक वर्सां मुखार रावले. हे फर्स्ट खंयचे? डॉक्टर माशेलकर हॅज मेनी फर्स्ट टू हीज क्रेडीट. ही वॉज द फर्स्ट इंडियन टू वीन मोस्ट प्रेस्टिजियस टुआस लिनोवो सायन्स प्रायज इन 2018, the highest science prize by the World Academy of Science, the first Indian from India to be elected a fellow of the US National Academy of Inventors, and the first Asian scientist to win the Business Week Award. Star of Asia Awards at the hands of George Bush, then President of USA. First and only scientist so far to win JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. First jury member from India to be on prestigious Queen Elizabeth Prize of Engineering, which is considered as equivalent to the Nobel Prize in Engineering. माशेलकरान इनोव्हेशनाची एक वेगळीच गंगा भारताक हाडली. ताणें इनोव्हेशन अनेक कॉर्पोरेट इन्स्टिट्यूशनाकय प्रमोट केलें. He has promoted innovation in corporate world, chaired Reliance Innovation Council, KPIT Technologies Innovation Council, Thermex Innovation Council, Persistent System Innovation Council, Marico Foundations Innovation Council. ते अनेक कंपनीचे डायरेक्टरय आशिल्ले आनी डायरेक्टर आसात. टाटा ग्रुप, रिलायन्स इंडस्ट्रीज, टाटा मोटर्स, हिंदुस्तान युनिलिव्हर, थर्मॅक्स, पिरामेल एंटरप्रायझीस अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीज अशा अनेक कंपनीच्या डायरेक्टर बोर्डाचेर ते डायरेक्टर म्हणून काम करतात. तांणी आपल्या आवयच्या नांवान अंजनी माशेलकर फाउंडेशनाच्या नांवान एक इन्क्लुझीव इनोव्हेशन अवॉर्ड सुरू केला, जाचो फायदो भारतांतल्या सगळ्या यंग सायंटिस्टांक मेळटा. माशेलकराक भारत सरकारान पद्मश्री, पद्मभूषण आनी पद्मविभूषण पुरस्कार दिवन गौरवांकीत केला. आनी माशेलकाराक सराक सगळ्यात काळजाक भितरलो आशिल्लो म्हणटा तो पुरस्कार म्हळ्यार गोंयच्या सरकारान आनी सबंद गोंयान तांकां दिल्लो गोमंत विभूषण पुरस्कार. नानी पालखीवाला म्हणटा जेन्ना मनीस खंय असो व्हड पांवड्याचेर पावता तेन्ना तो झुंबर जावन फक्त परजळटा, पूण एक झुंबर दुसऱ्या झुंबराक जर तेकेलें जायत जाल्यार दुसरें झुंबर पेटना. तें काम फक्त मेणवात करता. येद्या व्हडल्या पांवड्याचेर पावनय माशेलकर सरान मेणवाती सारक्यो अनेक मेणवाती पेटयल्यात गोंयभरात आनी भारतभरात. असो हो गोमंत पुत्र जगभर नामना मेळयिल्लो तुमच्या मुखार सादर करता आनी म्हजी 2 उतरां सोंपयता. देव बरें कर.
I would now request Arlene Kunna to present a bouquet of flowers to Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar. And Manali Prabhugaonkar will present a bouquet of flowers to our Chief Minister, Dr. Pramod Sawant. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very befitting that the government of Goa has organized this memorial lecture by a visionary who has a vision for the nation on the occasion of 50th death anniversary of another visionary who had a vision for his state of Goa. May I now request our Chief Minister, Dr. Pramod Sawant, to express himself on the occasion.
भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर हांच्या 50व्या पुण्यतिथीच्या निमित्तांत आज आयोजन केल्ल्या ह्या खासा लेक्चरा खातीर आमच्या मदीं आसात डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर. आमी जशें म्हणटा की एक गोमंत विभूषणाचे दुसऱ्या गोमंत विभूषणान तांचें आमच्या मुखार सांगप ह्या खासा सुवाळ्याक तांचें खूब खूब गोंय सरकारच्या वतीन स्वागत करता. मान्यवरांचे जे खासा करून वेगवेगळ्या क्षेत्रांतले मान्यवर हांगासर आसात तांचें हांव स्वागत करता. गोंय सरकारच्या वतीन पुराय ह्या कार्यक्रमाक म्हणजे आयचो हो लेक्चर आसात अशाच पद्दतीची लेक्चर सिरीज फुडले वर्सभर खासा करून भुरग्यां खातीर भाऊची 50 वर्साच्या कार्यकाळांतलो तांचो पयलो मुख्यमंत्री म्हणून तांच्यांनी केल्लें कार्य हें आयच्या युवकाच्या समोर येवपाक जाय म्हणून तर खाशा कार्यावळ पुराय वर्सभर वेगवेगळ्या जाणांक हे लेक्चर सिरीज अशाच पद्दतीत वेगवेगळ्याचे इन्स्पिरेशनल टॉक हे आयोजन केलें वतलें. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरांचें स्मृती स्थल हें रिनोवेशन करपाचो पांयाभरणी सुवाळो आजच जालो. फुडल्या वर्सभराच्या भितर आमी भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरांचें स्मृती स्थल हें परत एकदां 50 वर्साच्या उपरांत रिनोवेशन करपाचें काम आमी हातांत घेतलां. तिसरी आनी म्हत्वाची गजाल, कारण पणजे जिमखानांत आमी आसात, भाऊक क्रिकेट आनी फुटबॉल हो तांच्या सामको काळजाक लागीं आशिल्लो आनी ताकाच लागून भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर फुटबॉल चषक परत एकदां आमी गोंयांत सुरवात करता. GFA आनी GFDC हांच्या वतीन आमी ओनू गोंयांतले फुटबॉलपटू हांच्या खातीर फुटबॉल टुर्नामेंटाचें आयोजन केलां. वेळ पडलो जाल्यार हो फुटबॉल टुर्नामेंट एवरी इयर गोंय सरकार भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर फुटबॉल टुर्नामेंट हे दर वर्सा खेळयतले. अशाच पद्दतीच्यो वेगवेगळ्यो एक्टिविटीज तांचे फॅमिलीज ट्रस्ट जे आसात तांच्यांनी आयोजन करपाचें ठरयल्या. वेगवेगळ्या राजकीय मळाचेरूय वेगवेगळ्यो एक्टिविटी जायत आसा. हांव खरें म्हणल्यार आमी म्हणटा की 1961 गोंय मुक्त जालें आनी ताद्या वेळार गोंय महाराष्ट्रांत विलीन जाता काय कितें अशाच पद्दतीचो एक संभ्रम आसलो म्हणपाक कांय हरकत ना. संभ्रम कित्याक तर बऱ्याच जाणांक तेन्ना तें जाय आशिल्लें. घडये कदाचित म्हणजे तेन्ना वेगळ्या पद्दतीचो क्रायटेरिया आशिल्लो म्हणून तर ओपिनियन पोल जालो आनी ताज्या उपरांत सुद्दां म्हणजे ओपिनियन पोल गोंय राज्य म्हणून दवरपाचो जालो. जाय जाल्यार भाऊक सिंगल थारावांतल्यान गोंय महाराष्ट्रांत घालूंकूय येता आशिल्लें, पण भाऊन खूब विजन फुडें पळयलें आनी भाऊन तेंच विजन पळयलें म्हणून खूब गजाली गोंयांत जावपाक शकल्यो. आमच्या सारकिल्ले सामान्यांतले सामान्य युवक हे आमदार, मंत्री आनी मुख्यमंत्री पदाचेर पावले कदापि शक्य नाशिल्लें. आमी पळयता की इतकेंच न्हय तर भाऊन जे शैक्षणीक मळाचेर, सांस्कृतीक मळाचेर इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टरात तांच्यांनी केल्लो वावर आज आमकां खूब मोठ्या प्रमाणात वेगवेगळ्या सेक्टरात पळोवपाक मेळटा. आनी विशेश करून भाऊन केल्लें काम हे प्रायमरी स्कूल आयजूय बी गोंयांतल्या म्हणजे गांव तिथे शाळा हो जो कन्सेप्ट भाऊ साहेबान तेन्ना राबयलो आनी वेगवेगळ्या एका एका पंचायतीन 4-4, 5-5 शाळा सुद्दां आसात, आमी सगळ्यांनी पळयल्या. आनी त्योच शाळा जाल्ल्या कारणान आमी हाय लिटरसी रेट गोंयांत जो जालो म्हणजे 14 वर्सां उसरां स्वतंत्र मेळोन सुद्दां लिटरसी रेटाच्या बाबतींत आमी सगळ्यांत फुडें जे पावले त्याच प्रायमरी स्कुला खातीर. आनी म्हणून आमी गांवांतल्यान भुरगे शिक्षण घेवपाक शकले आनी ते फुडें पावले. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर हांच्यांनी गोंयचो मुख्यमंत्री पळयता आसतना न्याय, समता आनी प्रगती ह्या तत्वा कडेन म्हणजे ते वचनबद्ध रावले आनी त्याच पद्दतीत कार्य करीत ते फुडें गेले. म्हाका दिसता ह्या राज्याच्या उदरगतीच्या बाबतींत शिक्षण, भलायकी, मुळावी बांदावळ, ग्रामीण उदरगत हांच्यांनी तेजेर खूब मोठ्या प्रमाणात तांच्यांनी कार्य केलें. म्हणून तेंच्यांनी प्रोग्रेसीव कायदे हाडपाक ते फाटीं पडूंक ना. आमी पळयता की वेगवेगळे प्रोग्रेसीव कायदे कारण पोर्तुगीजांतल्यान हांगासल्यान गेल्या उपरांत जे डेव्हलपमेंट फ्रंटाचेर आनी वेगवेगळे कायदे हाडपाक जाय आसले त्याय बाबतींत ते फुडें आशिल्ले. सांस्कृतीक दायज आसतले, सौमीक सोबिताय आसतली, हाज्याय फुडें तेंच्यांनी तितकी खबरदारी घेतली आनी ते फुडें गेले. सस्टेनेबल टुरिजम हाची सुरवात जर केन्ना जाली आसत जाल्यार तेंच्या पयल्या टेन्युअरांतल्यान तेंच्यांनी सस्टेनेबल टुरिजम हाजोय बुनयादीचो फातर घातलो आनी आज टुरिजम क्षेत्रांत आमी खूब फुडें वयता आसतना आमकां पळयता. आनी ताकाच लागून गोंय एक एक दृश्टीन आमी पावल फुडें मारता. आनी आमकां सगळ्या जाणांक एक गोंय ल्हान राज्य जरी असलें जाल्यार तसो पळोवंक वचत जाल्यार भाऊचो प्रभाव हो सायडीच्या राज्यांचेरूय आमकां दिसून येतालो. म्हणून तर सायडीचे महाराष्ट्र आसत, कर्नाटक आसत, इवन दो मध्य प्रदेश पर्यंत थंयसरले मिनिस्टर्स हे भाऊ साहेबाक प्रेज करताले कारण भाऊ साहेबाचे त्या पद्दतीचे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आनी भाऊ साहेबाचे त्या पद्दतीची घेवपाची डिसिजन्स म्हणजे गव्हर्मेंट ऑफ इंडियाय काही डिसिजनांक तेंच्या बद्दल तेद्या वेळार इम्प्रेसिव्ह आशिल्ले आनी कॉपरेटीव फेडरलिजम दवरपा खातीर तांच्यांनी एका पद्दतीचो समन्वय जो आशिल्लो वो इतर राज्यां बरोबर ते प्रस्थापीत करपाक शिकिल्ले. म्हाका आज खूब बरें दिसता की तांच्या 50व्या पुण्यतिथीच्या निमित्तान म्हण आमी ज्या जिमखान्यांत तांच्यांनी आपलो अखेरचो श्वास घेतलो त्या पणजे जिमखान्याचें हांव अभिनंदन करता की सातत्यात भाऊ साहेबाच्यो स्मृती तांच्यांनी ताज्यो दवरल्या, तांच्यांनी जाग्यो दवरल्या आनी सातत्यात जिमखान्यांत वेगवेगळे कार्यक्रम करता आसतना थोड्याच दिसा पयलीं भाऊ साहेबांचो क्रिकेट पॅड आनी बॅट हातांत घेवतलो स्टॅच्यू अनावरण करपाचें भाग्य तांच्या फॅमिली ट्रस्टात जरी स्टॅच्यू तांच्यांनी पणजे जिमखान्यांत केलो, अनावरण करपाचें भाग्य म्हाका लाभलें. आनी हांव परत एकदां म्हणजे भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर आनी म्हजो गांव हो तसो पळोवंक वचत जाल्यार खूब लागचो संबंद आसा आनी हें भाग्य म्हाका लाभलें. भाऊंची पयली मायन ही पाळी ग्रामपंचायत क्षेत्रांतल्या कोठंबी गांवांत आशिल्ली, ज्या कोठंबी गांवांत म्हजो जल्म जालो आनी तेंचे मायनीक आजुनूय त्याच पद्दतीत थंयसर सुरू आसा. तांच्यांनी आपलें पयलें हायस्कूल हें आमच्या म्हज्याच मतदारसंघात वेळग्या हांगासर तेंच्यांनी सुरवात केलें. तांच्यांनी थंयसर प्रायमरी, सेकंडरी आनी हायर सेकंडरी पर्यंतचें एड्युकेशन हें तेंच्यांनी आमच्या वेळग्या गांवांत श्रीमती बांदोडकर हायस्कूल ह्या नांवांत तेंच्यांनी सुरवात केलें. आयजूय बी खूब बऱ्या पद्दतीत हें हायस्कूल सुरवात आसा. गोंयच्या उदरगतीत तांचो खूब मोठो वांटो आसा. म्हाका दिसता हें सगळें सांगता आसतना आज गोंय ह्या देशाच्या बाबतींत आमी जशें म्हणटा की आझादी का अमृत काळात आमी विकसीत भारत 2047 हाजो विचार करता तर खंयसरूच गोंय फाटीं उरचें न्ही आनी तें गोंय फाटीं उरपाक जायना म्हणून योग्य मनीस जाका आमी म्हणटा डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर पद्मश्री पद्मभूषण हांचो आज हांगासर आमच्या समोर जो टॉक जावपाचो आसा त्या टॉकात हें सगळें सांगता आसतना हांव शेणै गोंयबाबाच्यो दोनूच उतरां तुमच्या समोर मांडटा आनी म्हाजें हें सोंपयता. गोड म्हजें गोंय शेणै गोंयबाबाची ही कविता आसा. त्या गोड म्हजें गोंय सुंदर म्हजें गोंय पुर्विल्लें नामनीचें चड मोठें भाग्याचें उंच माथें कोंकणाचें हेंच म्हजें गोंय. हें गोंयचें सदोदीत आमी सगळे जाण आमी पळयता की गोंय हें खूब भाग्यवान आसा. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरा सारकिले भाग्य विधाते गोंयांत जल्माक आयले आनी त्याच बरोबर गोंयची नामना देश आनी विदेशांत पावोवपी डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर आज आमच्या मदीं आसा. त्याय खातीर आमी भाग्यवान आसा. देव बरें करूं.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar is known for his own world-class scientific research, for his transformative science and innovation institution leadership. He has been an influential thought leader in shaping science, technology, and innovation policies in post-liberalized India. He is the man, ladies and gentlemen, who in his book Reinventing India pronounced his Panchashil for the new millennium: child-centered education, women-centered family, human-centered development, knowledge-centered society, and innovation-centered India. His mantras of inclusive innovation, more from less for more, and Gandhian engineering have been a constant source of inspiration for corporates and youth alike. Dr. Mashelkar fought a 14-month-long legal battle to revoke the US patent on Haldi and emerged victorious. This victory was so significant that it changed the way patents were classified and earned him the moniker of the Warrior of Haldighat. A person with stupendous and tremendous achievements of 25 books, 284 research papers to his credit, and an honored recipient of doctorates by 44 universities from India and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar to the dais. Sir, the audience is yours. Just one clarification: since this is a memorial lecture, there will be no questions afterwards. Sir.
Thank you. Our most beloved Chief Minister of Goa, Shri Pramod Sawant, members of the Bandodkar family. In fact, we are all members of the Bandodkar family. And I'll explain why I feel like that. And friends and admirers of revered Bhau-Saheb Bandodkar, ladies and gentlemen. It is 50 years ago that to this date, Bhau-Saheb left us. But Bhau-Saheb was not an individual. He was an institution. Individuals go, institutions don't. So he is around. So although he is no more, he is everywhere for us. I feel most privileged that you thought, the government thought that I was worthy. Yatin, Jyoti, all the family members thought that I was worthy of delivering the very first memorial lecture. There is always something fantastic about being first, all right? Then we'll follow the second and the third, but being first, that's very, very special to me. So I'm very, very grateful to you. भाऊंना मी भेटलो गोमंतक मराठा समाजाच्या कार्यालयात, प्रार्थना समाजजवळ ते 2 हत्ती आणि इम्पिरियल थिएटर आहे त्याच्या बाजूला याचं कार्यालय होतं. आणि त्याचं कारण असं होतं की गोमंतक मराठा समाजाकडनं मला स्कॉलरशिप मिळायची. मला वाटतं 8 का 10 रुपये दर महिन्याला होती, पण माझ्यासाठी ती बरीच होती. आणि SSC मध्ये सेकंडरी स्कूल सर्टिफिकेट एक्झाम I had stood 11th among 135,000 students, and therefore I was felicitated by him in a not a formal big function. And I still remember, you know, I was म्हणजे मी बराच हडकुळा होतो, not like pot-bellied that I am now. And when I saw his magnificent figure, I must tell you, Pramodji, I don't know the sort of how I felt actually, but he made me feel easy. My पाठीवर हात ठेवला, माझी चौकशी केली, and then मी त्यांना चरण स्पर्श केला, त्यांचे आशीर्वाद घेतले. And what he said at that time I still remember. He said, खूप शिक, मोठा हो, आणि गोमंतकाला तुझा अभिमान वाटला पाहिजे असं काम कर. आणि आत्ताच गोमंत विभूषण कला मंदिरात मला 30 मे 2013ला मिळालं, म्हणजे जवळजवळ 10 वर्षापूर्वी. त्यावेळी मला त्यांची आठवण झाली. म्हटलं मी काहीतरी केलं असणार ज्याने त्यामुळे तुम्ही माझं कौतुक केलं आणि आयुष्यात काहीतरी धन्य झाल्यासारखं वाटलं. भाषणाची सुरुवात करायच्या आधी एक गोष्टीचा मला उल्लेख करावासा वाटतो. ज्योतिताई बांदेकर यांचा जो आठवांचा परिजात हे पुस्तक त्यांनी फार सुंदर लिहिलेलं आहे, ते आपण मला पाठवलं होतं त्याच्यावर अभिप्राय लिहायला, आणि तो मी माझ्या स्वतःच्या हस्ताक्षराने लिहिला, कारण आय डिड नॉट हॅव द मराठी फॉन्ट यू नो, आणि आपण तो तसाच्या तसा छापला. आय रिअली ॲप्रिशिएट दॅट. So what I wrote there, I will just read out, because if you want to understand Bhau Sahib, I think that's the best book you can sort of have as an individual, as a person, because he was a great human being. तर त्यात मी लिहिलं होतं की व्यक्तिगत अनुभवातून पाहिलेल्या व अत्यंत ओघवत्या भाषेत लिहिलेल्या या भाऊंच्या हृदय आठवणी म्हणजे ज्योतिताईंनी आपल्या समाजाला दिलेली अनमोल देणगी आहे. यात भाऊंच्या तेजस्वी व्यक्तिमत्वाचे अनेक पैलू दिसतात. अँड सर, यू टॉक्ड अबाउट मेनी ऑफ हिज क्वालिटीज. दातृत्व, निरपेक्ष लोकसेवा, तडफ, धैर्य, विवेक, चिकाटी, निष्ठा, कलाप्रियता, अगदी छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टीतून भाऊंचे मोठे गुण दाखवणारे हे एक हृदयस्पर्शी व अगदी आगळं वेगळं व्यक्तिचित्र केवळ गोमंतकीयच नव्हे तर सर्व भारतीयांसाठी प्रेरणादायी ठरेल. हे मराठीत आहे. दिस बुक इज इन मराठी अँड आय थिंक इट इज अवर बाउंडन ड्युटी दॅट इट रीचेस द वर्ल्ड by getting it translated into sort of all languages. So I thought I will sort of begin my lecture with these personal sort of remarks. The title of my talk today is Building New India as an Exponential Inspirator. Now you might wonder what is this Exponential Inspirator, and I will explain to you as I sort of go forward. Now how do I begin? Because I'm a scientist, so you will expect me to start with the equation. So I will not disappoint you. I will start with an equation. So there was this meeting of scientists where they're discussing what is the most powerful equation the scientists have created. So somebody got up and said Newton's second law, force equal to, आठवतं की नाही? Mass into acceleration, F equal to F. Then somebody got up and said, no. Einstein, E equal to mc square. And then I was sitting quiet and they said, what do you think is the most important equation? So I said, not Newton, not Einstein. So they were surprised, not Newton, not Einstein, what is it? So I said, according to me, the most powerful equation is E equal to F. Education is equal to future. As simple as that. And that is exactly what Bhau Sahib did. And sir, you elaborated very eloquently his contribution that he had done in education. But I thought I will read out what Jyotitai you had written, basically. It's in Marathi again. शिक्षणाला भाऊंनी फार महत्त्व दिलं. खेडोपाडी असलेली निरक्षरता पुसून काढून बहुजन समाजाला साक्षर करण्याचं महत्त्वाचं पाऊल त्यांनी उचललं. त्या ठिकाणी खेड्यातील व शहरातील गरीब मुलांना शिक्षणाची आवड असूनही शाळेची फी भरणं अशक्य असल्यामुळे शाळेत जाता येत नसे. त्यामुळे मुलं शिक्षणाशिवाय गावात भटकत असत. मागासलेल्या समाजाची मुलं शिकल्यास पुढारलेल्या समाजाची मजुरी कोण करेल? ती शिफारून त्यांना मान देणार नाहीत अशा स्वार्थी व संकुचित विचारसरणीचे काही पुढारलेले लोक बहुजन समाजाच्या मुलांना मज्जाव करत असत. दोज वर द डेज. आणि देन अशा या मागासलेल्या समाजात प्रत्येक खेड्यात व कानाकोपऱ्यात जवळजवळ 1,500 प्राथमिक शिक्षणाच्या सरकारी शाळा भाऊंनी सुरू केल्या. 1,00,000-1.5 लाख मागासलेल्या मुलांची SSC पर्यंत शिक्षणाची सोय सर्वत्र केली. एवढंच नव्हे तर भाऊंनी बहुजन समाजाची सर्वांगीण सुधारणा व त्यांच्यात जास्तीत जास्त माध्यमिक उच्च शिक्षणाचा फैलाव करून सरकारी व औद्योगिक क्षेत्रात त्यांना मानाचं स्थान व आर्थिक लाभ मिळाला या विचाराने त्यांची गोव्यातच उच्च शिक्षणाची सोय व्हावी म्हणून आर्ट्स, सायन्स, कॉमर्स, फार्मसी, मेडिकल, इंजिनिअरिंग यासारखी महाविद्यालये सरकारी व निमसरकाररित्या उघडण्यास उत्तेजन दिले. गरजू आणि होतकरी विद्यार्थ्यांना स्वतःकडून हजारो रुपये आपले पूज्य पिताजी कैलासवासी बाळकृष्ण बांदोडकर यांच्या स्मरणार्थ द्यायची व्यवस्था केली. 1961ला पुण्यातील ज्ञानप्रबोधिनी या शैक्षणिक संस्थेला देणगी देऊन तेथील विद्यालयाला उपकृत केले. ज्ञानप्रबोधिनी ही फार मोठी संस्था आहे. आय एम प्राऊड टू बी इज करंट प्रेसिडेंट ॲट द मोमेंट. आणि त्यावेळी अशा संस्थेला त्यांनी मदत करणं, त्यामुळेच आज ज्ञानप्रबोधिनी जे आहे ते आहे. अगदी अल्पकाळात शिक्षणाचा प्रसार इतक्या वेगाने इतरत्र कुठे झालेला नसेल. ॲट दिस स्पीड अँड ॲट दिस स्केल, अँड दॅट्स very, very sort of important. Why did I read that? I read that because it is important. Just as sir you emphasized this, I also want to emphasize this. The power of equation E equal to F. Then you said you have done only half the job. You have proposed the equation but you have not proved it. The fact that I am here is the proof of that. But I will go beyond it. There are a number of proofs as far as I am concerned from my life, and I will go back to 17 March 2000. What happened on that day? The venue is the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and it was the day on which Padma Awards were given. And I and Ratan Tata got Padma Bhushan one after the other on that day. So you will say, how does it prove E equal to F? Then I will tell you why. We got them at the hands of K.R. Narayanan, who was the president. Now K.R. Narayanan was born in a very poor family. He used to walk several kilometers to the school. His parents were so poor that they did not afford the tuition fee. So he would stand outside the class and take notes, so as to say. How did his life get transformed? He got a Tata scholarship. And then, of course, he went on to become the president. My life was not very different. I was born in Mashel. My father died when I was 6. My mother could barely read or write, and she took me to Mumbai in search of a job. Life was very tough, as you all know. I walked barefoot until I was 12. I studied in a municipal school, in Marathi school. I remember 2 meals a day was a challenge. I've gone hungry many a days. My mother was a great food technologist. She used to cook a food by which you will not feel hungry at night. I studied under street lights. And then, as I said, in the 11th standard, ACC, I stood 11th among 135,000 students, and I was going to leave school because she was really struggling. And then came Tata Scholarship, and the rest was history. Now here is an interesting thing. A Tata scholar becomes a president. He gives Padma Bhushan to Tata, because of which he got Tata Scholarship, and gives it to another Tata scholar. If this does not prove E equal to F, then nothing will prove E equal to F. And therefore, Bhausaheb was right in investing in education. And you are right. In the morning when we had a discussion, you remember we focused on education, skill, how completely committed you are to skill development. That's extremely important because that is the sort of going to be the future. I think I must modify the equation because as a scientist, you know, there is always a challenge if you make small mistake. So the actual equation is not E equal to F. It is E into education into opportunity is equal to F. We have seen PhDs applying for lower division clerk positions when railways sort of apply. That is not on. That means they have no opportunity. And therefore, how do we create opportunity? That's most important. So, in this context, let me tell you a story. There is this National Innovation Foundation. which was created by the government in year 2000. I was its first chairman and continued to be one for 18 years, but the real driver was Professor Anil Gupta, basically. I call him, or Guru, I call him sort of a modern Gandhi, you know, like he used to do Shodha Yatras in villages, walking miles basically. I mean, he has covered Kashmir to Kanyakumari thrice over, by the way, going all around, discovering innovation. And the fundamental belief was that everyone is someone. The fundamental belief was minds on the margin are not marginal minds. Everybody can sort of create. And we used to give awards, actually. President of India used to come and give these awards. And many, I mean, the very first one I remember, many of them were barefoot who came, and Dr. Kalam was so gracious, he served them tea, breaking protocol and so on. So that is the National Innovation Foundation. Then we are selecting the Chief Innovation Officer, and I was chairing the interview. And I saw the CV of an individual. He said his specialty was branding. So I said, great. Tell me, I want to brand my India. How will you brand India? So he was confused because he had branded a refrigerator, he had branded a car. How do you brand a nation? And then I said, I will help him. So I said, United States of America brands itself as land of opportunity. How do you brand India? Pat came the answer. India is a land of ideas. Now here is a good news. India is a land of ideas. And here is not a so good news. It is America which is land of opportunities. That is where the brain drain takes place. So our challenge is creating India as a land of opportunity. Is India becoming a land of opportunity? The answer is yes. And I'm explaining to you why it is sort of land of opportunity. For doing that, let me go to another story. This story is about lilies in the pond. There's a pond where there are lilies, and they have the habit of doubling up every day. So day 2, they are twice of day 1, and so on. On day 30, the pond is full. So on what day will it be half full? 29. On what day it will be quarter full? 28. 1/8 on 27. And 1/16 on 26. 1/16 is 6%. So on 26th day, if you visit that pond, you will see it empty, right? And you will give it up. Kuch hone wala nahi hai. This is done. But you are surprised. You just go there in 4 days and it is full. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, India is lilies in the pond on the 26th day. And that is the exponential part. Because when I talked about doubling up, that's the exponential we are talking about. Is it happening? Just let me give you some example. India in 1750 had a quarter of world's GDP. What happened in 1991? We had to pawn our gold. Why? Because there was a balance of payment default. So we were down. And today we talk about $600 billion foreign exchange reserves, basically. So we went down and we went up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on our way up. You just look at India's GDP. It took 67 years to reach 1 trillion. But the next trillion came in 8 years. And the following trillion came in 1 year. That's the exponential. All right? You look at, for example, a sector, take IT services. The first 100 billion took 30 years. The second 100 billion took 10 years. And the third 100 billion took 3 years. That's the exponential. That's my title, Exponential Inspirator. All right? So don't undermine a lilies in the pond on the 26th day because you don't know what the future is. So don't judge it by the current, judge it by the slope. Let's look at corporates, for example. I talked about the country, I talked about a sector. Let's look at corporates. I've been on the Reliance board for 17 years, and I've seen them grow. It took them 15 years to become a billion-dollar company. In next 15 years, they did not double up. They went up by a factor of 10. So from 10 billion, they went to, the 1 billion, they went to 10 billion. In the next 5 years, again 10x, 10 into 10, 100 billion. And the following 3 years, that means the last 3 years, they have doubled up, 200 billion. And now, as I speak, it is close to 300 billion. And as I know, they will be a $500 billion company within the next 4 to 5 years, the way things are going. Can you just sort of imagine the kind of exponential that we are talking about? Now, you would say, what is fundamental as far as the growth is concerned? Because we all want growth. We want accelerated growth. We have lost a lot of time. As I said, for 67 years. You know, therefore, in 2007, when India celebrated 60 years, I celebrated 16 years. It was 1991 when we opened up, all right? That is where the great story that I'm talking about began, right? So, therefore, we have to get into fundamentals and see what is very important. And it boils down to the discussion we had in the morning. If you look at growth, United States of America, the growth was because of roads and railways, the physical infrastructure, which we are now doing at a rapid pace. For UK, it was textiles. For Sweden, it was timber and timber products. For Denmark, it was milk and milk products. For Middle East, it was oil. If you ask me, what is the oil for India? I would say Indian talent, okay? In fact, Atalji used to say IT is India's future. I also used to say IT is India's future, but not as in information technology, sort of Indian talent. And you can see that, because if you look at the equation, education into opportunity is equal to the future, you can see some of the Indians, how they're built. I'm coming back from Silicon Valley. I was giving a keynote in a, what was called as a GMG Excellence Summit. And I met several Indians and so on and so forth. And the amazing things that they have done, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I visited, by the way, the Tesla factory. All right, massive, producing 19,000 vehicles per day. You know, and it's a wonder, as a matter of fact. But you know, who is the boss there? He's an Indian, Rishikesh. Education into opportunity. You look at the top 5 CEOs, for example, all right? Our GDP is around $3 trillion plus. But if you look at the top 2 Indians who are heading the companies like Satya Nadella, Microsoft, it is 2.1 trillion, and Sundar Pichai, Alphabet, 1.5 trillion, that itself makes it 4 trillion. All right, you can't compare market cap with GDP. I understand that, but I'm just giving you sort of value. So I think the most important point here is that we should be proud, but not so proud when our Indians go and take over companies. We have to do it here. And that I'm most happy about. You know, people call me a dangerous optimist. I give you my autobiography. It is called Durdan Mein Ashawadi, Dangerous Optimist. So I'm going to be dangerous optimist in this lecture also. And I am really encouraged by sort of what I see among the youth. And I'm very happy to see a number of young people here. I was interacting with some young people. I try to do that so that at 81 you feel younger. And I proudly mentioned to them about Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai. I said, I'm very proud of our education system. Look at the kind of products we create, okay? And I mentioned about Sundar Pichai and I mentioned about Satya Nadella. You know, the answer was very interesting. One young fellow got up and he said, "Sir, I don't think you understand what is in our sort of." So I said, "Why? I thought I said something good." He said, "No, sir. Your generation, your only aspiration was to go to US somehow. The next generation go to US and get a job. The following generation not only go to US, get a great job like in Microsoft, but become CEO. Not us. Not us. We want to create our own Microsoft, our own Google here in India." That's the new sort of generation, young generation. You know, claps and smile don't cost anything. So when you want to give them in abundance. Feel free. So what actually is happening today in India? Aspiration is fine to do that, but coming back to startups, also something that we discussed in the morning. You just look at the picture. And I must thank Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his vision and what he has done by creating this Startup India as a sort of a movement. Until 2016, we had 471 startups which are formally registered. In 2023, just in 7 years, we have 90,000, 200-fold increase, and exponential. Then you will give one bigger applause when I tell you the next. Until 2016, we had one unicorn per year. Unicorn is a $1 billion market cap company. In 2021, not one per year, we had one per week. Almost. Not 52, I have to be correct as a scientist. 44, but almost. That's fantastic. Then we say, so what? They come, they go. What happens to them? What does it mean? I would tell you even a better news now. So I got an analysis done. I said, where do they come from? Do they come from elite institutions? Do they come from IMS? Because we have few elite institutions. And if they are producing it, it's a good news, but not such a great news. All right? There is a great news. Close to 50% of them, they are not IIT IIMs. They come from Tier 3 cities, Tier 2 cities, and some of them are dropouts. This is democratization of life. Now, can you just imagine from a small village in Goa, a 26, 28-year-old young son of a, let's say, a farmer, having $1 trillion market. Why has this happened? That is because of the digital access. All right? And several things have gone sort of well. For example, open source software rather than having to pay expensive Windows, cloud storage, right? And some other factors that I will shortly explain to you. I think so the first part of my speech, therefore, is explaining the exponential. And as you can see, I have given you examples across the board to show how that exponential is taking place. Now, we look at the factors that are responsible also for that exponential, like in the digital world. As I said, I've been on the board of Reliance for 17 years, and I also chair the Reliance Innovation Council. We have had kind of Nobel laureates, C.K. Prahlad and George Whitesides and a whole range of people it has been very engaging. And I remember once I was having a discussion with Mukesh. Normally before the board or after the board we have some discussion. And he said, Doc, we must leapfrog to something. So I said, Mukesh, do you know why the frog leaps? He said, I don't know. I said, he leaps because he's afraid of the predator and jumps a few feet. Okay? Do you want to do that because you are afraid of the competitor and jump a few feet? Or do you want to pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of your aspiration. And he loved it. And we created a program called Beyonders. What is Beyonders? Beyonders are those who will make impossible possible. and go beyond the realms of possibility and achieve something. And then we supported them, created program, etc. But did pole vaulting take place? Yes, it did. If you look at 2017 February, okay, India, among 231 nations, was somewhere at the bottom, 156. After Geo came, within 1 year, we did not leapfrog to 100. We pole vaulted to number 1. And in terms of mobile data consumption, we have stayed number 1 all along. And why was that? Because data was 4 rupees per GB, voice was free. This was affordable excellence. Excellence because it was 4G LTE being given, so affordable. And that was the kind of democratization. And what happens is that once you start creating, because we talked about our road and railway infrastructure not being, it now is sort of shaping up in a sort of big way, thanks to Honorable Nitin Gadkari ji and others, etc. But as far as our digital public infrastructure is concerned, it grew in a massive way. And that is what I like to call as a combinatorial innovation. That means there are several components of it, and then they came together, like India Stack and so on and so forth. And there, I must say, policy and technology, they matter, they come together. Once again, if you see Jan Dhan Yojana, mobile, Aadhaar, they were brought together. This is a combination of technology, policy, system delivery, and so on and so forth. And you can see that in 2014, for example, within 1 week, we had 1.4 crore accounts. And that has got Guinness Book of Record. So it became the fastest financial inclusion. Can you just see? Okay? And there was combinatorial, because Aadhaar, if Aadhaar was not there, this would not have been possible. Okay? So this is sort of inclusion. But most importantly, what I'm always worried about is inclusion. Because the benefits must go to all. And if you just see, during COVID times, we could transfer, because India was the most unbanked, let's say, country. And you can see the transformation that has sort of taken place. Also, for example, during COVID times, they could get the money. Women, for example, bank accounts only 19% jumped to 56%, so as to say. And that is a sort of to inclusion. And this combinatorial of public digital infrastructure has worked wonders. For example, in digital payments, we have become number 1. Would you have ever imagined that the digital payments that we have would be US and China added together, surpassing them by several times? In fact, 2022, 89.5 billion were transferred, $1.6 trillion value. And if you look at UPI, May 23, 9 billion transactions, and UPI is now in demand in sort of other countries. Looks unreal, isn't it? If you just were there, lilies in the pond, just 10 years ago, this would have looked impossible. But it looks sort of possible. We talk about sustainability, and I'm very happy that Goa is focusing very strongly on sustainability. I saw sort of many reports on how you are moving on that. Let's look at that, because I just don't want to focus on digital. You will say, what is happening in other sectors? Now just see that when you use these lamps, you have, let us say, these CFL, as it's called, compact filament lamp. And you also had the incandescent lamp. That's what we're using, isn't it? And they consume energy. For example, 7-watt LED, light emitting diode, 50% of 14-watt CFL, and 60-watt incandescent lamp, almost 90% sort of reduction. So you create carbon footprint. What has happened is, we created a record. We moved from 0.2% share of LEDs. Within 6 years, we jumped to 88%. How was it possible? That was by demand aggregation. By demand aggregation, we brought down the costs by a factor of 9, rupees 310 in 2014 to 38 rupees, 310 to 38 rupees. And plus, we are system deliveries through ESL and other things, etc. And the impact has been 40 million tons of carbon dioxide sort of reduction. Now here is lilies in the pond. This happened in 6 years. That means when it was 0.2%, it was like that pond, 94% empty. You would have said nothing can happen, but within 6 years. So ladies and gentlemen, the central point I'm trying to make is that we must keep this habit of growing exponentially. Now, how sort of this growth can be maintained? What are the factors that can come in? All right. Now, let's focus on that because that's very important. I remember this Asia Economic Dialogue that was being held in Pune, and this is Pune International Center. I happen to be the chairman, and Dr. Vijay Kelkar happens to be the vice chairman. And this Asia Economic Dialogue, this is the 4th year, and we get people from all around the world. And now people are even referring it to this as Davos of the East, so as to say. And Dr. Jaishankar was the chief guest. This happened just a few months ago. And I began my talk by saying that we have to worry about 3 C's. The 3 C's are simple. It is COVID, conflict, and climate. COVID, we are still not recovered. We are just recovering. And conflict, you know, Ukraine, how it has affected. And you don't know the next conflict, maybe Taiwan. We don't know. And climate is a sort of a continuing challenge. And I remember somebody said, Dr. Mashelkar, and by the way, Dr. Jaishankar responded by a beautiful answer, giving 3 C's which can combat these 3 C's. That I will sort of take. So what happens when you have a growth and suddenly COVID came and growth came down? Suddenly conflict came and there was a challenge and so on and so forth. So somebody said there is a 4th C that Dr. Mashelkar missed, that is chips, semiconductor chips. That can be a sort of a big conflict and we need to worry about. So what it means is that when you are growing exponentially, suddenly these inhibitors come. Like in enzyme kinetics, the growth, there is an inhibitor and then the sort of growth stops. So we need to worry about this. And therefore, whatever happens, we have to be resilient. Okay? And resilience, there are 10 tenets. I have a separate lecture on this, which are adaptability, agility, resilient thinking, autonomous innovation, total alignment, digitalization, platformization, scenario building, etc., etc. Now, this is becoming very important. For our students, for example, we don't teach them resilience. In my judgment, this is a VUCA word, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and VUCA is the new normal. Let us take that. And therefore, our students have to prepare for themselves. And therefore, all these factors, they have to be sort of enunciated to them, and they have to be sort of prepared. I am Sir Louis Matheson Distinguished Professor at Monash University for last 15 years, and I had given these talks on resilience, and they now introduce resilience as an important factor in their engineering, by the way. All right? So this growth inhibitor, to prevent it, how do we remain resilient? You might want to hear some examples on how one can become resilient. For example, resilient thinking. You know, Dhirubhai Ambani, when he started his Jamnagar refinery, as usual, he called the foreign consultants. And the foreign consultant asked him the obvious. For what specification would you like to design the refinery? He said, well, all, from the dirtiest to the finest. They said, but there is no such refinery in the world. He said, there is always a first time. And they built that. Today, that refinery processes 200 plus crudes. So no matter what happens in the world, as you can see, their margins are the highest. Then adaptability and agility. You know, Jio, the way it grew, I'm giving one example from one industry so that you will understand basically what we need to do. You know, to get 50 million customers For telephone, it took 50 years. Mobile, 12 years. YouTube, 4 years. Facebook, 3 years. And Twitter, 2 years. Reliance did it in 83 days. They now hold the record. And of course, ChatGPT has broken all records. So I'm not talking about that. And the reason they could do was that they did onboarding in 15 minutes, not 2 days. And the reason that they could do was that they could use Aadhaar to do the eKYC. All right? That is, know your customer by doing the e-way. And then suddenly Supreme Court came and said, you can't use Aadhaar. So gone, the way they were accelerating, right? Exponential comes in danger, isn't it? The moment you say you can't have that speed because you can't do that. They immediately went into an alternative and they created an image-based authentication, hyperverge artificial intelligence platform, an alternative, within 15 days, and they were back on track. So I think we must understand that VUCA is the new normal. It will come because of internal factors, external factors, and we'll have to sort of. The other important part, and I want to emphasize this because again, it goes back to our conversation in the morning. There is what is called as talent, technology, and trust. The trust deficit creates a problem in growth. I'll give you an example. You know, in my mother's name, I have created this Anjani Mashelkar Inclusive Innovation Award, and I'll come to that a little later. And one of the winners was Naveen Khanna from ICGV. You know, when you have dengue, it takes a couple of days, 1 or 2 days, whether you have a dengue, at what stage it is, and so on. He created something which can do it in 15 minutes. Just 15 minutes. He had 2 markers. Okay? US FDA approved. US patents granted. Patents here granted. We will not buy them. Why? We are importing from US, we are importing from Australia, we are importing from South Korea. Then came a pandemic. All the kits were running out, and we went, give us few lakhs in such. 2 countries said we can't, and only South Korea said we will. And as luck would have it, they loaded it on a ship which went to Africa, not to India. So we had no kits. What to do? We had no other alternative but to go to Naveen Khanna. Naveen Khanna's market share at that time was 0%. Today it is 78%. Imagine that ship had come to India. What would I buy with? 0%. So I think it is most important that we have trust in our young people. And that is where we have to create systems, even in our startup, where we give them an opportunity. All right? We trust them. We take risks on them. Venture capital cannot be vulture capital. Venture capital has to be adventure capital. And how do we create that? You know, there is this Maharashtra State Innovation Society, of which I have been the co-chairperson. The other co-chair is the Skill Development Entrepreneurship Minister. And of course, I am permanent, I remain Mashelkar. The ministers, they keep on changing. And 2018, for example, we had a new startup policy. And I argued. I said, Sachin Tendulkar, at the age of 15, he scores a century. But he can't get into test because there is a 10-year, there is a 10-year experience. And as you know, startup is a startup. Where is the experience? And if you have the normal tender process, how will you give him the thing? So we changed the tender process as far as the young people are concerned. And I was just giving an example to the Honorable Minister in the morning that there was a drone, startup on drone, which was clearing the liquid surfaces. Basically, he was given the work order by PCMC, not following the tender process, but there is some other process that we have followed. He was successful, he got more orders, and today he is one of the leading, within 4 years, he has become one of the leading suppliers to defense on surveillance equipment. So giving that opportunity is possible. So exponential, this particular part about talent, technology, and trust is very sort of critical. The other thing that I worry about India, and there are some others, I will not have time to go into that. I have written separately about it and elaborated quite a lot, is about the degrowth that can take place. See, we talk about India at 75. We are very proud. But we need to worry about Bharat at 75. What is Bharat at 75? 70% still in villages. Government statistics shows that in urban areas, 1 out of 6 is in slums, juggies. Government statistics shows that 1 out of 4 is below the poverty line, and after COVID it has become worse. That is our Bharat. And therefore, if that difference keeps on increasing, we have a challenge. Inequality is a sure way of getting into social disharmony, and the rest goes this thing. And that's why I'm very happy to see a lot of the scheme that you have launched, how they are trying to sort of reduce that inequality. Now, in order to make it clear as to what is India at 75 and Bharat at 75, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, I'm president of this Swarupavardhini, which looks at education of the poor and so on. It's, I'm the vice president was Uday Gujar. He brought his grandson to me. He's just 8-year-old during COVID time. And he said, we have a problem with this boy. So I said, what is the problem? He said, he knows everything. I said, how can that be a problem if he knows everything? So I said, sit down. What is your favorite subject? He said, all subjects. Very confident boy, 8 years. So because it was COVID time, I said, let's talk about biology. I said, what is the difference between bacteria and virus? Perfect answer. Then I raised the bar. I said, I've heard something about mutation. What is it? Perfect answer. 8-year-old boy. Huh? Then I raised the bar further. I said, what is spike protein? Almost 70-80% correct. Then we went into DNA. And I had on this iPad a photograph of my having a breakfast with Watson. Watson was the Nobel laureate. Watson and Crick got the Nobel Prize for finding the structure of DNA, as you know, the double helical structure. I said, who is he? He couldn't recognize. So I said, he's Watson, and tuck came the answer, Watson and Crick. And as you know, there was a third scientist who should have got the Nobel Prize, that lady. He mentioned her name and said she should have got. 8-year-old, how does he know that? Then I said, tell me, who is the scientist who has got 2 Nobel Prizes? Immediately, Madame Curie, including the year. I said, no, Linus Pauling also got 2. He said, no, the first one was for science, second one was for peace. 8-year-old. And has not gone to school for 1 year because of COVID. So I asked his grandfather and father, you are not scientist, how come he knows so much? He said, we have trusted him and have given him Google, full access to Google. Google is his guru. Then I alerted his father that he is using his brain as a storage. He has to use it as an intelligent processor, and that's why he will need a guru. In the same week, you know, I get another news. So here is young boy just flying because he got the access. Shraddha Paul, a 15-year-old girl in a village near Satara, commits suicide. Why? She couldn't give the online exam. Why? Because she did not have access to online learning. Why? Because her father and mother were so poor that they could not give it to her. So here is this boy, India at 75, flying, and here is this girl, which is no more, because she belongs to Bharat at 75. This is not tenable. This is not tenable. And we have to do something. And for that, I think we have to look at a new alternative, which is giving access equality despite income inequality. Now, how do you do access equality despite income inequality? Can you do the magic? For example, an electrocardiogram takes, let us say, 500 rupees. Can you do it in 5 rupees? Looks impossible. Then mother's health has to be monitored, pregnant mothers, all right? How do you monitor it? On 1 rupee per day, looks impossible. Breast cancer, you have to do mammography and so on and so forth. You have to spend with large amount of money, etc. Can you do it just for $1? Looks impossible. All right. Hemoglobin takes 150, 200 rupees to find out. Can you do it in 5 rupees? Looks impossible. But all that impossible has been made possible in India, right here. In my mother's name, I have created what is called as a Anjani Mashelkar Inclusive Innovation Award. Inclusive innovation. You know, I used to leave whatever money I had with her whenever I came to Pune. Every weekend I used to come because I used to be in the research lab. And I have this habit of carrying cash. I used to give it to her. We never asked her what she did. But on the last day, after she passed away, I remember Shruti, my daughter, was checking and she found all that money there, saying that don't forget our roots. Help those who are doing science for the poor. And I created this foundation. That foundation, thank you. And that foundation, what it does is that there are two things we do. Making high technology work for the rich, very easy. Making low technology work for the poor, very easy. Making high technology work for the poor, very difficult. We give awards to that. Secondly, we always go by best practice. I'm following best practice. Arey, you are then following. Create the next practice. All the awardees so far are following the next practice. And all this has happened. I'll take, like a magician, I'll take something. You know, we talked about ECG. What happens? You go there, lie, 12 lead, half an hour, nurse comes, print out. There is a portable ECG. What you have is a portable ECG. This is today in 12 countries, more than 25 lakhs have been sold. It just costs 4,000 rupees. So per ECG, if you say the discounted cost, it would not be even 5 rupees. How do you operate it? You put your two thumbs here for 15 seconds. There's a sensor here. This is your heart. 15, 15, 15 seconds. 15, 15, 15 seconds. And if you have downloaded an app called Sanket, all right, it can go to anyone. So imagine now an old lady in a village. She has pain in the middle of the night, all right, and you have to take her to get her ECG. You don't have to put her in a bullock cart or a motorcycle or a jeep and go several kilometers. You can do it from where you are, provided connectivity is sort of available, which now sort of we are providing. Can you just imagine what difference it can make? And this is, by the way, US FDA certified, CE certified, and so on and so forth. It is absolutely incredible. I talked about the mother. There is this Senthil, whose sister was pregnant. She was in a village. She used to go several kilometers to do her monthly checkup, etc. He's a genius. He created this IoT sensor-based system, which she wears. There are, and also AI enabled, and it can do 7 parameters with great sort of accuracy, and data goes into the cloud. It is monitored remotely, etc. And just 1,000 rupees for 1,000 days for her as well as the child. It is going to hundreds of villages now. Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra. In Andhra Pradesh now they've made it mandatory for rural villages. You can see what difference it makes. All right. Now, the most important, and I want to congratulate you, sir, for this, the breast cancer, that $1. In fact, I showed it to you in the morning. I didn't want to carry it because that could not fit in my pocket, actually. So this is something that you just move around the breast. You don't have to do anything subject to radiation, nothing, absolutely. And within 5 minutes, you get to know. And I must applaud you that Goa government took this up. This is called iBreast, okay? And we have a great health minister, of course, Vishwajit Rane. He introduced it. 1 lakh is the target. And I picked up yesterday's data, 11 August, 70,000 you already covered. Now, can you just imagine? No one has to die because they were not screened. And this is just $1. And I can give you several examples of like this. In fact, we had an interesting discussion in the morning on how, because this is transformative. This is totally transformative because important part is the diagnosis is such that first of all, you don't require any technician. It is user-friendly, it is affordable, it is high technology, it is non-invasive. Once these 4 parameters are met, you can see the transformation that actually takes place. We have some other one also, Bandicoot, which again, you had the vision to sort of adopt it. What is Bandicoot? You know, we talk about manhole. Some college students said why a man should be in the hole, that is derogatory. It should be machine, right? And what is wrong with manhole? Because these manual scavengers, they die, actually. You know, they start drinking because they can't, at a young age, 20, 30, they die, and so on. So they said they should be machines. So they created a robot which goes. Today it is in 17 states, by the way. And Goa has also taken sort of a lead. Now you will ask the obvious question. The obvious question will be, if robot replaces that man, what happens to man's family? All right? So what they have done is that they have trained those manual scavengers on operating a robot. Now just see, I talked about access equality. This is access to dignity. Why? Because let's say their children in the school were asked, what does your father do? They would have put their head down and said, he's a manual scavenger. Now they can put their head up and say, he's a robot operator. And I'm very happy that, thank you. And I'm very happy that there was a Rajya Sabha MP who was present during the awards ceremony. We give these awards on 17 November, which we celebrate. That is the day my mother passed. But we celebrate that as a National Science, National Social Innovation Summit from Pune International Center. So he was there, and he was a part of the rehabilitation committee, and he took it there, and then it went up. And today there is a bill, basically, to sort of change this man to machine and bring the dignity, etc., and we'll change. So transformation. So I'm giving these examples in order to just illustrate to you that exponential is true because these are exponentially reduced costs. At the same time, affordable excellence without losing the high technology component of it. And that becomes transformative, as you can quite clearly see. So when I talk about Exponential Inspirator, these are the inspirations. And if I had 3 hours more, I would have given you several other examples, but I don't have, so I will finish within the next 5 minutes or so. Now, what I will do is, I'm 81 now. Okay, so I have learned a lot in life, many times by failures. By failures, you learn more than success. So I will just end up my lecture with 5 Mashelkar mantras that I have learned, because I see a number of young people here for whom these might be useful. So that is the end of my lecture. The first is, you keep on knocking on doors, particularly for the young, I'm emphasizing, because purpose, pursuance, and passion matters. You keep on knocking on door and they don't open. What do? You open your own door. Create your own door. And in each case, I'll give an example, because that is how I learned. So I came back in 1976. I was teaching in England. India was a poor country, no foreign exchange. I was trained in rheology and non-Newtonian fluid mechanics. And I needed a rheogonymeter, Weisenberg rheogonymeter, model R18, I remember. And it would take me 2 years. No foreign exchange, so DGTD clearance, not manufactured in India certificate. So that equipment was not available. Then I asked myself a question, what is the equipment God has given me? This. So I went into mathematical modeling and simulation. And those of you who are scientists, as you know, Bhatnagar Prize is the highest science prize you can get. I started work in 77, and in 82 I got the Bhatnagar Prize. Okay? Had I not opened my own door, I would be still waiting for that Weisenberg rheogonymeter. So that is the first lesson I've learned. The second is aspirations are your possibilities, keep them high. I became the director of National Chemical Laboratory in 1989, 2 years before liberalization, closed economy. What used to happen was we were doing import substitution, copying, reverse engineering. So anytime our scientists did something which was ahead of the rest of the world, I went to industry, they would say, but has Europe done it? Has US done it? If they have not done it, how can you do that? So I remember 1st June 1989, I took over. In an auditorium of capacity of 540, there were 1,100 people. And I addressed them. And I said, we'll convert National Chemical Laboratory into International Chemical Laboratory. What did it mean? I said, what am I selling? Knowledge. What is my market? The whole world. And I said, we can even license our patents to multinationals. And I took the name of G, General Electric, because I was doing polymer and General Electric had some breakthrough. So at the end, a young fellow came to me and he said, do you realize that G's R&D budget is 2.5 times India's R&D budget? I said, it is not the power of budget that matters, it is the power of idea that matters. And since you talked about G, we'll take on G. And I remember I was doing that mathematical modeling and simulation. From that I had got an idea about what is called as a solid state polycondensation of this engineering plastic called polycarbonate. All right? 40% world market share was G's. They were leaders. And we licensed 3 patents to G in 1992 for close to $1 million. That was the first reverse transfer of technology to that leader. So it is not the power of budget, it is the power of ideas. Right? That's extremely important. And that led to something else, because Jack Welch said, if they are so good, why are they not there? And in Bangalore, they created Jack Welch R&D Center, and that followed others. And today, there are 1,500 R&D centers, as a matter of fact. That was the trigger. So remember this, keep your aspirations high. National Chemical Laboratory to International Chemical Laboratory. The same people who are copying reverse engineering, when that challenge was given, they rose to the challenge. And India always rises to the challenge, as we have seen. The third lesson is particularly for the young. You can do anything, but not everything. So focus. That's very important. And I will tell you the story about the focus. So what happened was, in the 7th standard, I had stood first with 88% mark, and I had to seek admission in the secondary school. And we required 21 rupees at that time. And my mother took more than 21 days to get that. And finally she got it from her friend, who was a maid in a Gujarati family in Chowpatty. By that time, and it was her life saving, she gave it to me. By that time, all the admissions in good schools were closed. If you know Mumbai, you know Wilson High School, Aryan High School, Chikitsak High School, and we went to a poor school. And that poor school was Union High School, where poor people's children went. But that poor school had rich teachers. One of them was my science teacher, Principal Bhave. He did not believe in chalk and talk. You know, he would show us things, like for example, soap factory. Just no chalk and talk and explain how that happens. He took us to a visit. How many of you have actually visited a soap factory? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. I visited it at a young age. I did not have money to pay for the tram, but that teacher, he was also poor, but he paid my tram. We went to Wimco factory. And one day he did something that was the wow moment. You know, in all of our life, there is always a wow moment. He took us out into the sun. He had the convex lens in his hand. He had a piece of paper, and he wanted to show us how to find the focal length. He moved it up and down, and when the brightest spot came, he said, this is the focal length. And then he held it for some time and the paper burnt. And he said, like this, if you focus all your energies, you can burn anything, you can do anything. That was an inspiration moment for me. I said, my God, science is so powerful, I must become scientist. But later on, I said, it gave me the philosophy of life. But as I grew, I saw more in it. What did I see? That as far as the convex lens is concerned, the sun's rays are parallel. Okay? And what is the property of parallel lines? They never meet. What does convex lens do? It makes them meet. So I thought of convex lens leadership. When I took over as a director of National Chemical Laboratory, we had inorganic chemistry division, organic chemistry division, polymer chemistry division. No two divisions will talk to each other. I said nothing. One NCL, team NCL, and so on. Then I became Director General of CSR. And I'm very happy that you are here in the audience because Professor Shede, no two laboratories will talk to each other. There was a challenge. You know, we had 40 laboratories and so on. I said nothing doing. Team CSR, one CSR, and so on and so forth. And the magical day was 11 May 1998. We had 40 directors conference. You were there. And they all signed a piece of paper called Bangalore Declaration. And what they said was, India matters to us. We want to matter to India more. All 40 laboratories coming together. It was a magical moment. In fact, 11 May 1998, as you know, there were 3 technology events. One was our small aircraft, DRDO having their own missile. And in the evening, Dr. Murli Joshi was we got the news that Pokhran 2 had happened. And then I remember one thing led to the other. And during the Bhatnagar prizes, I remember Prime Minister was sitting here and Dr. Murli Joshi here, and we mentioned to him about calling that a technology day. And Atalji went, didn't respond anything at all, read out his entire speech, and then he said, I declare 11 May 1990 as Technology Day. That was a very special day, and today we celebrate it. The point I'm trying to make is that how they converge. And later on, I became president of Global Research Alliance. I remember CSR India, CSR Australia, CSR South Africa, Fraunhofer Gesellschaft Germany, VTT Finland, nothing common. $450 GDP per capita to $6,000 GDP per capita. But we got it all together with the alignment and so on. So one small lesson like this. I think for the nation also this is very important because race, religion, language, etc. can avert it. Remember what our Prime Minister says, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas. We have to be Team Goa, Team India, and so on and so forth. So that is the focus part. The fourth part is about kind of mindset, positivism, and so on. You know, they say parachute works only when it is open. Mind is also like that. It works only when it is open. And the ability to see the other points of view is very important. Once I remember my granddaughter, Ishwari, she was learning alphabets. She was some 4 or 5 year old. So I sat down there and said, let me test you out. She was sitting where you are sitting, and I'm here. So I wrote D. She said D. And I went on writing. And then I wrote Z. You know what she said? N. I said, no, beta. It is Z. She said, no, it is N. Now, I was right, and she was also right. It depends upon how you look. That is something that is missing. And I used it in an interesting way, by the way, because Microsoft and another Indian company, they had a challenge, and they chose me as a mediator. So when the Microsoft team came, the other team came, they sat, then I explained to them, look at each other's from your sort of point of view. Microsoft is a multinational company, it has its own obligations, and this Indian company had its own limitations and so on. So do that, ZNN. By 5 o'clock, I got a message that whenever the negotiations were breaking down, they remembered this ZNN. And finally, they set it. Just that little ability. And this goes for all national conflicts that we have today. It's ability to do that and sort of open mind. I think that is very, very important. And positivism. You know, people call me dangerous optimist. I'll tell you just one little story. Delhi University, I was invited for Physics Teachers Association, and there was a turmoil. And after the opening session, they were going to go to the Vice Chancellor with Morcha. And then somebody said, he introduced me like you did, and he said, as you know, we are all in coma. And Dr. Mashelkar will tell us what to do. So I said, I'll never address 500 people in coma. Maybe he did not mean we are in coma, but we are at a comma. What does comma do? You have written half the sentence, you have not done the remaining. You write, maybe it's a positive one. Write another one which is positive. Para, which is positive. Page, which is positive. Chapter, which is positive. And then I left. You know what happened? After that they met, had a discussion about this comma and comma, and they dropped going there. This is what I mean by looking at the positivism. When you look at a half glass full, a half glass empty, when there is a darkness, you know, we start accusing the government, but somebody has a sense to get a candle and sort of light it. So that's the fourth mantra that I have learned in my life. And the last one now. And the last one is that there is no limit to human achievement, there is no limit to human endurance, there is no limit to human imagination. You know, 1953, until that time, Everest was supposed to be not conquerable at all. Okay? But then Tenzing and Edmund Hillary conquered it. And after that, an 80-year-old has conquered it. A 14-year girl has conquered it. A blind man has conquered it. Somebody whose leg was amputated has conquered it. And somebody has conquered it 20 times. You understand? I think that is the issue. So I have, Professor C.N.R. Rao is my sort of great guru, and he's a Bharat Ratna, as you know. And he has got everything other than Nobel Prize, and I hope he gets it one day. So when I became Fellow of Royal Society, I called him, because there have been only 3 engineering scientists in 363 years who have become Fellow of Royal Society. The signature that one talked about and so on. So I thought he will be very happy. And his answer was, not bad. So I was disappointed. Then I got another honor, American Academy of Arts and Science, similarly, a big honor, not bad. Then National Academy of Inventors, I was the first one. I said, 3rd, 7 doesn't work with him. Then I said, sir, what do I have to do so that I can impress you? His answer was very interesting, and I leave it with you. His answer was, he calls me Ramesh. My name is Raghunath Mashelkar, but my mother starts calling me Ramesh. He said, Ramesh, you are climbing on a ladder of excellence, which is limitless. Okay? And the only limit is what you put on your head. Now, what it means, if you transcribe it in a different way, it means that no matter what you achieve, you have to say, my best is yet to come. So my advice to the young is, whether you are 18, you are 19, you said, no? So whether you are 19, 29, 49, 89, 99, you will all live for 100 years, by the way. Every day in the morning you should get up and say, my best is yet to come. And today is going to be the day. And my best is not just for myself, my society, my Goa, my India. All right? And if all 1.4 billion people do that, what an India will create, what a Goa will create. I think that is the 5th lesson. I'll just end on a personal note in 2 minutes. I remember giving the D.D. Kosambi Memorial Oration in 2011, and Satish, you had chaired that, and you remember what happened then. The title of my talk there was Making Impossible Possible. This was several years ago. Today also my talk is Making Impossible Possible. How can you be exponential all the way? And there I had said, basically I had dreamed something about Goa, and as you know, I was chairing that Goa 2035 sort of document, and I said, unfortunately, I won't be there when 2035 comes. And then I said something which scientists should not say. So I said, but I want to see my Goa in 2035 in its sort of full glory. And why doesn't the God take away the rest of my life, but allow me to come for one day in 2035? And you remember what happened then. Somebody got up in the audience and said, we want you to see Goa at 2035. So what we'll do is that each one of us will donate 1 week, 1 month of our life. I was very touched. That's what makes Goa special, by the way. It comes from here. And then after that, something very interesting happened. My Reinventing India book actually carries that, because I was in Monash, and one Shailesh Sanjgiri wrote to me, and I will read it out, because I want to end this particular lecture on a note where I want to say how grateful I am. I'm very proud to have been born here, but I'm most grateful to you for the love and affection. And he wrote, I celebrated my 63rd birthday year. To keep the promise made to you in Kala Academy on February 5, I have prayed to the Lord to debit 1 month of my life to credit to you, for you to live long, for the service to the nation, and more for you to see your beloved Goa at 2035. I'm sure all those who promised you that day will follow suit suitably. What do you say? When such abundance, such tsunami of affection comes to you, I consider myself very fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate. I really want, I'm very happy with the way sort of we are moving. Our GDP per capita is higher than that of India. When I received the Padma Vibhushan, Gomanta Vibhushan, I had said that Goa is a developed state in a developing country. Basically, we should not compare ourselves with India. We have to sort of look at globally. And we are all dreaming now about India at 100. And we are setting some targets. But I'm looking at Goa at 75 to not only meet those targets, but exceed those targets. And I want to see that day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for that mesmerizing lecture. And all of us will be present here to welcome you once again when Goa at 75. Everybody in this audience will take their seats. Now, as a token of our sharing love and caring relationship with you, I would request our Chief Minister, Dr. Pramod Sawant, to present this memento to Dr. Mashelkar. Ladies and gentlemen, we will conclude this function by vote of thanks proposed by Shri Deepak Bandekar, Director, Department of Information and Publicity. And after that, may I request all of you to kindly join for tea and coffee. It's outside the hall. Thank you.
Good evening to all of you. Our keynote speaker for today's memorial lecture, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, Honorable Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant, dignitaries in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for today evening. First and foremost, I will express my gratitude to Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar for accepting the invitation to deliver this memorial lecture in spite of his busy schedule, and in today's lecture enlightening us on various topics including education, opportunities, and nation as a whole having opportunities to grow exponentially. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Honorable Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant for attending this memorial lecture and always giving us support and guidance in arranging this memorial lecture. My thanks to Secretary Education, Sri Prasad Lolekar, for his welcome speech and introduction of the keynote speaker. Special thanks to Yatin Kakodkar for giving all the cooperation in organizing this memorial lecture. I would also like to thank all the friends from media, Enjim Jimkhana, also Dr. Vaidya for comparing this function, and also each and every one of you for attending this memorial lecture. And last but not the least, my colleagues from the department who has worked hard for arranging this memorial lecture. Thank you.